Snow fell like shattered glass from the sky the night everything changed. And if you're watching this, hit the subscribe button, because what happened next shocked the entire valley. Because no one expected the richest rancher in Montana to say the words that would bind their fates forever. I need a woman, and you need a home. The wind screamed across the mountains, pushing the snow in violent circles as Clara stumbled through the dark. Her thin shoes were soaked, her white dress torn, and every breath burned her lungs. She had been running for hours, from danger, from hunger, from a past she never wanted to remember. Her hands were shaking, turning numb. She didn't know where she was anymore, only that the storm was growing worse and the world was turning white. Then her foot slipped. She fell hard onto the frozen ground, pain exploding up her arm. She tried to stand, but her legs collapsed again. Her vision blurred. She thought she heard wolves in the distance, or maybe it was just the wind mocking her hopelessness. "Get up," she whispered to herself. "Please, get up." But her body refused. Just when the cold began swallowing her consciousness, a deep voice cut through the storm. "Don't move." Clara froze, forcing her eyes open. Through the falling snow, a tall figure approached, a long brown duster coat, broad shoulders, a cowboy hat, dusted with white, boots sinking into the snow with slow, deliberate steps. He stopped right in front of her. His face was shadowed, but his eyes sharp, controlled, unreadable. "You'll die out here," he said. She wanted to speak, but all she managed was a weak gasp. The man crouched down. "Look at you, shaking like a leaf." He touched her wrist, checking her pulse. "You're freezing." Clara pulled her hand back weakly. Please, don't hurt me." He raised an eyebrow. "If I wanted to hurt you, sweetheart, I would have left you right where you fell." His voice sounded rough, but there was something else beneath it, something protective. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Ethan Grant," he answered, "owner of this land and about half the damn county." She blinked. She'd heard of him. Everyone had. The millionaire rancher with a reputation colder than the Montana winter. A man who lived alone. A man who trusted no one, especially not strangers. Ethan stood and reached out a hand. "Can you walk?" I don't know." "Then take my hand." She hesitated. Her last encounter with a man had left her bruised, terrified, and running for her life. Trust wasn't something she could easily give. But another blast of icy wind hit her face, and she realized the truth. If she didn't take his hand, she would die. Slowly, trembling, she placed her fingers into his palm. His grip was strong, warm, steady in a world that was collapsing under her feet. He pulled her up gently, his coat brushing against her torn dress. "You need shelter," he said, looking directly into her eyes. "And I need—" He paused, as if choosing the words carefully. Then he said it. "I need a woman, and you need a home." Clara's heart stopped. Why would a man like him say something like that? Before she could question him, Ethan lifted her into his arms. "Let's get you inside before you freeze to death," he muttered. She clung to him, snow swirling around them as the storm raged on. And that night, their destinies locked together. Ethan carried Clara through the storm as if she weighed nothing. His coat shielded her from the wind, the fabric warm against her frozen skin. Each step he took was steady, calculated, almost protective in a way she didn't understand. Lights finally appeared through the snowy darkness. A large wooden ranch house glowing gold against the icy night. Smoke curled from the chimney. Horses shuffled in a nearby stable. The place felt alive, warm, safe. Everything Clara hadn't felt in years. Ethan kicked the door open with his boot and stepped inside. Heat wrapped around her instantly. The scent of burning cedar filled the air. He lowered her onto a soft leather couch near the fireplace. "Don't move," he said quietly. Clara watched him disappear into the kitchen. Her fingers tingled painfully as they thawed, and tears pricked her eyes from the sudden warmth. She wrapped her arms around herself, still shaking, not from cold anymore, but from fear, confusion, and the overwhelming feeling of being somewhere she didn't belong. Ethan returned with a blanket and a steaming cup of something. "Drink," he said, handing her the mug. She hesitated before taking a small sip. Hot chocolate, rich and sweet. Her throat tightened. She couldn't remember the last time someone gave her anything without expecting something in return. "You're safe here," Ethan said, watching her face carefully. Clara nodded, but her hands trembled slightly as she held the cup. He knelt beside her, his eyes scanning the bruises on her arms, the cuts on her hands, the torn dress. "Who did this to you?" She looked away. "Please, don't ask." Ethan exhaled slowly, as if fighting the urge to push for answers. "Fine, not tonight." He stood and walked to a cabinet, pulling out clean towels. "Bathroom is down the hall. Hot water's running. You need to warm up properly." Her throat tightened. "You're being very kind." "I'm not kind," he answered bluntly. "I just don't leave people outside to die." But the way he looked at her softened the harshness of his words. Clara stood carefully, her legs still weak, but Ethan reached out and steadied her with one hand on her elbow. His touch was warm, firm, grounding. "Why did you say that to me?" she asked softly. "Outside, in the snow." He held her gaze for a long moment. "Because I meant it." Her breath caught. "You don't even know me." "Maybe not," he said, his voice low, "but I know what loneliness looks like, and I've lived with it. Long enough to recognize it in someone else." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The fire crackled. Snow tapped against the windows. A quiet tension filled the room, gentle but powerful. "Go wash up," Ethan finally said. "We'll talk after." Clara nodded and walked toward the hallway, clutching the blanket around her. She felt his eyes on her back, not with suspicion, but with something she couldn't name, something she hadn't felt in years. The hot water stung Clara's skin as the shower thawed the last of the ice from her bones. Steam filled the bathroom, fogging the mirror and wrapping her in warmth she'd forgotten existed. She scrubbed away the dirt, the fear, the memories clinging to her skin. When she finally stepped out, she found a clean flannel shirt and soft sweatpants folded neatly on a chair. Too large, clearly Ethan's, but warm and comforting. She slipped them on, letting the fabric swallow her small frame. When she walked back into the living room, Ethan was standing by the fire, one hand resting on the mantel, the flames casting shadows across his sharp features. His coat was off now, sleeves rolled up revealing strong forearms, and a man who'd spent his life working the land. He turned when he heard her footsteps. The moment his eyes landed on her, something shifted. Not pity, not sympathy, something deeper, something he wasn't ready to say and she wasn't ready to understand. "You look better," he said quietly. "Thanks to you," Clara replied, her voice softer than before. He nodded once. "Sit." She moved to the chair opposite him. The warmth of the fire wrapped around them, but the air between them held a different heat, unspoken, magnetic, undeniable. Ethan studied her for a long moment. "Clara, I need to know if someone is looking for you." Her chest tightened. "No one who should find me." He didn't need the details. Her eyes told him enough. Pain, escape, survival. "Then you stay here," he said simply. She blinked. "What? You heard me? But why? You don't even know if I can help you with anything." "It's not about helping me," Ethan cut in. "Not tonight." She stared at him, unsure how to respond. No one had ever offered her kindness without expecting something in return. His words from earlier echoed in her mind. "I need a woman, and you need a home." "Did you mean what you said? Outside?" she whispered. Ethan stepped closer, his boots thudding softly on the wooden floor. He leaned against the edge of the table, arms folded, expression unreadable. "I'm a man who doesn't say things he doesn't mean," he said. "I've lived alone on this ranch too long. I've worked hard, fought harder, made money I didn't even ask for. But none of it feels like anything when you come home to silence every night." Clara swallowed hard, her heart thudding in her chest. "I'm not asking you to be mine," Ethan continued, voice steady. "Not yet. I'm asking you to stay, to rest, to heal. And if one day you decide you want more," his gaze softened, "then I'll make sure you never feel cold or unwanted again." Tears gathered in Clara's eyes, not from fear but from something she never expected to feel here in a stranger's home. Safety, warmth, possibility. She stood, taking a trembling step toward him. Ethan didn't move, but his eyes followed her with a quiet intensity. "I don't know what my future looks like," Clara whispered, "but right now, this is the first place that's felt like home." Ethan's jaw tightened slightly, as if fighting emotion. "You're home now," he said. Outside, the storm continued, but inside the ranch, two lonely lives had just begun to melt into one destiny.